Hi, it's Lauren. Welcome back to my craft room. I have a card today. It's an interactive card, and I made this a little harder than I think it needed to be, but I really liked how it turned out, so I'm going to share it anyway. I will kind of share some ideas I think I have if I could do this card again. I'm just showing all of my supplies kind of quickly that I used. I will have everything listed down below in the description as well. So I'm going through this pretty quickly just to show that I've already stamped and colored my little mice for this card, as well as some blocks of cheese. And I was inspired by, okay, so I saw the basket for sale from Fawn, as you know, the berry basket, and it's super cute, but it reminded me also of the basket from Mousetrap. I don't know if you've ever played that game, or you have a kid that loves that game like I do. I just imagined Mousetrap for some reason. So when Craft Roulette had this latest parameters, and it was based on a board game, was one of the parameters. I was like, okay, I'm going to make this mousetrap card that I totally saw when I saw the basket. So I'm using some colors that were also inspired from Craft Roulette. So I distressed a blue background. I wanted to have something with a little bit of interest, so I distressed it onto some mixed media cardstock and then splattered some Spellbinder silks just to create some sparkle and interest in the background. It's going to be not a very busy looking card. I felt that it kind of needed more at the end, but the interactive element of this card stressed me out too much that I was happy with how it turned out. So having that background added a lot of interest. So the basket in the mousetrap game that we have is a red basket, and it sits on top of a yellow plastic pole, and there's little like ridges on the pole, so it could possibly stop and your mice not get trapped in the basket, but I wasn't going to go that far, so I just created a strip using some rectangle dies. I know Lawn Fawn makes a strip die that I apparently really needed for today, but I made do with some rectangle dies to still get a stitched look down the center of my yellow pole. I figured that would kind of give that vibe that there's like little notches in the pole. And the board game that my daughter has is like a purple trail of squares. I kind of wish I would have done a little more on this part. I think that's where I feel like it got a little plain, was this big purple thing on the bottom. But I wanted my basket to look like it was going to land on top of my little mice with their cheese. So this is kind of a quick little layout of what I was thinking. And you could totally just stop here and not make it interactive. I think I should have just left it here. It's a really cute card as is right there. But I wanted my basket to go up and down. But I also wanted to hide it behind the yellow pole. And also my basket has tons of holes in it. So what was I going to attach my pull tab to? So I am going to experiment using acetate as my pull tab for this card. So right here, I did make a small mistake. I forgot that I needed to leave room in between my slot for the pull tab and the top notch. As you can see right here, I have very little space between my notch and my pull tab notch as well. So I am going to run into an issue with not being able to put the stabilizer where I want it, because it should be in between your slot for your pull tab as well as the notch on the top to pull on the pull tab just to help create stability. But I'm going to cut it, as you can see here, out of acetate as well. So this is scrapbook.com's acetate. It's actually pretty flimsy and very easy to die cut and score. I guess it's a little too flimsy to be a pull tab, but honestly, it worked out okay. So I would definitely try out their acetate if you're looking for something that can be easily die cut and maybe not so heavily reliant as a pull tab piece, but it worked out really well, I think, for what I was going for. So I created my pull tab and my stabilizer out of acetate, and I'm actually going to glue down my yellow strip to the top and bottom around that slot where my pull tab goes up and down, which again, I would have had more room if I would have remembered that I had to lower this down a little more, but that's okay. So I'm going to create my stabilizer using some acetate, and I'm putting some strong adhesive in places I know where it won't show through the slot. Again, I realized later it's not necessary because you're not going to see it. I totally could have made this stabilizer out of regular paper, but in my head I was thinking I didn't want it to be seen anywhere, so I'm using clear for my pull tab elements. So once I have that stabilizer closed up, I'm putting some acetate so that way I can put it around the slot. I'm sorry, around my pull tab behind the slot. So it's going to go just under that top notch. You can see me, I'm placing it right here. And it will also create the top part of where my pull tab is going to go. So it doesn't have a lot of movement, my pull tab, but that's okay. I still think it turned out kind of cute. And I'm going to use my scoring tool just to really help with that acetate. And now my basket is going to attach to the clear acetate. So this is how I'm going to get away with it looking like the basket is empty, and it will still move up and down. Now granted, if you look really close at the card, of course you can see the toast shaped acetate, but you know, it's fine, and I think it inspires what I'm going for the card. So I'm going to add some double-sided adhesive to the center two pieces of my basket, and it's a little wider than 1/8 of an inch. I'm sorry, a little smaller. So when I peel off the release paper, I'm going to kind of fold in the edges of the tape so that way nothing is sticking out and it won't get stuck to anything like the envelope. So I'm going to glue down my strip first. Again, I'm only gluing it to the top above the slot where my pull tab goes up and down. And then I glued it down here to the bottom. Now I wish I would have glued it to my purple cardstock because I wanted my basket and its pull to look like it's going into the board game. So I didn't really get that effect, but that's okay. The way I layer my mice at the very end of the card assembly kind of hides the fact that the pull goes behind the purple cardstock. I'm trimming off the excess of the yellow, and this is when I realized that I wanted the back part of the basket to actually be on the other side of the yellow. So I should not have glued down both sides yet. I'm able to kind of pull it up. It does rip my paper a little, but it's okay because it's going to be covered by the purple cardstock later. So here you can see I'm trying to fold in any of that extra tape adhesive and hide it behind those red basket lines. And I'm using just a little bit of wet glue to give me some wiggle room to get it on this acetate before it is stuck down completely. So you can see here, I'm about to press down and I go, oh, wait, I need the bottom part to go through. So I'm trying to peel it up, but it's pretty already stuck. So I did, again, it ripped a little, but it's okay. It's going to be hidden and you won't see. So I layer that back part of the basket underneath my yellow pull here. So now you can see when I pull the pull tab, the basket is going up and down and it's on both sides of the yellow pull, which I think is cool. I'm very happy with this kind of concept of hiding the pull tab behind the yellow pull. So I definitely am going to try this technique again with another design idea because I actually really liked how that turned out. So now that my pull tab is done, my basket is adhered to the mechanism, I'm going to now adhere the purple to the card. So again, because of the way everything is layered, I wish there was a little more space for that basket to go behind the yellow because I wanted the yellow to be on top of the purple, but it had ripped because of me gluing too early. So it is what it is for this card. Okay, so now that the purple part is on, which is the board game part of the card, I'm going to go ahead and add a bunch of adhesive to the back of this panel so I can adhere it to a card base. I went with some extra wide foam adhesive so that way I could cover as much area as I could in one big cut of my adhesive foam, and just filled in any gaps so that way there was lots of stability behind this panel. I made sure my pull tab was as low as it possibly could go, and I'm just trimming off the excess part of that acetate, and then I am adhering it to a top folding A2 size card. So here you can see I can kind of grab that pull tab. I need to add the top arrow to give it a little more stability. So I die cut it twice, once out of the yellow and once out of red, and I'm going to just score that in half, and then I will add some adhesive tape behind each side of the pull tab. So I am going over making sure to cover the arrow so that way I could just drop in the little red arrow once this yellow piece is adhered to the acetate pull tab. Once I get one side pulled off, I will layer that to the back of the pull tab. So I'm starting with the part without an arrow and sliding that underneath the pull tab and pressing down. And then I will pull off the release paper for the top side and I will adhere that down. And then using a jewel picker, I will pick up that little red arrow and puzzle piece fit that right inside. So now that the mechanism and pull tab is done, it's moving okay. Like I said, the acetate is a little flimsy. I need to find the perfect acetate where it's sturdy enough to be able to use as an interactive piece, but also not incredibly thick that I can't die cut it. So once I am all done with that, I can finally put on the cute little mice. I'm going to use those thin 3D foam squares from Scrapbook Adhesive since I already have some bulk from adhering the mechanism to a card base. I can add some subtle dimension still with my mice and my cheese. Once I have my mice and cheese underneath my basket, I'm going to adhere down the mouse that looks like he's jumped onto the basket and going up and down. I'm just using some wet glue and making sure that it doesn't stick to my background. And once that dries, it will be moving along with the basket. So now let me clean up my workstation a little and I'm going to get out a sentiment. It took me a long time to figure out what I wanted to do. I ended up just choosing Hello Friend and I'm going to do some risky stamping. I always think of my sentiments when I'm all done. I don't know why I do this to myself, but I do. So I'm going to distress the sentiment on because I don't want to risk messing up my sentiment or my ink and not being able to layer it back up. Using Versamark gives me kind of like a chance to look at how it's stamped before I emboss, so it gives me a chance to do a redo in case I mess up. So I used my Versamark and some white embossing powder and I went ahead and used my heat gun to melt that down. Once it's all cooled down, I'm just using a Swiffer cloth to get off any of that extra anti-static powder. So here is a final look at the card. As you can see, to push it down, you do have to kind of use your fingers a little, but it does pull up quite nicely and it makes, I think, a cute little card inspired by the Mousetrap game. I hope you enjoyed learning about this type of pull tab and hiding it behind some cardstock, and I hope you'll try it yourself and let me know in the comments below once you've tried it if you have any tips or tricks that you think would be useful, and maybe I will do another video with this same technique soon. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you'll click like, and if you're new here, I hope you'll subscribe and come back. As always, you can find everything I use down below in the description box. Thank you and have a wonderful day. Bye!